Hi everyone, I'm Celeste. Welcome to my BookTube channel. Well, get your magnifying glasses out because today we are talking about Girl Sleuths. I'm bringing you another installment of that series, and today I am reviewing Nancy Drew, number 7, The Clue in the Diary. All of the Nancy Drew books that I have spoken about so far in this series were written by Mildred Wirt Benson. All the titles including The Clue in the Diary. Now, after this book and the next 3 I'll be reading in the series, another author took over whose name was Walter Carrig, and he would write the following 3 titles, meaning Nancy's Mysterious Letter, The Sign of the Twisted Candles, and a favorite of mine, Password to Larkspur Lane. We'll get to those 3 Walter Carrig Nancy Drews in the spring. But for today, I wanted to do a little mini review of The Clue in the Diary. Now, the artwork on both editions of The Clue in the Diary are fantastic. The book was originally published in 1932 and sported this amazing cover. Look at the rich colors. The artwork is just splendid. And they both show the moment that Nancy is running away from a burning house and about to discover the diary, from the title The Clue in the Diary. And the 1962 edition is also a great deal of fun. It's also the year I was born and shows Nancy running away from the burning house, but she's a little bit more upset in this one. She's very collected in the original artwork and the original cover. Okay, so let's get to the storyline. So in this book, Nancy and her friends, the cousins Bess Marvin and George Fane, attend a country carnival. And while they're at the carnival, they befriend a mother named Mrs. Swenson and her little girl, whose name is Honey. Now, Mrs. Swenson and her daughter Honey Swenson are looking on the carnival but don't seem to have enough money to actually purchase tickets and go on the rides. Nancy, Bess, and George notice this and feel bad for them, and so offer up some of their ride tickets so that the mother and daughter can join them. And so they do, and they're very grateful for that. Well, driving home from the carnival later that afternoon, the girls happen to drive by a large white mansion, which explodes into fire suddenly. Of course, the 3 chums drive over, park their car, and get out to investigate in case they can help anyone who's trapped in the fire, and also to notify the police. Nancy goes around to the back of the property and catches a tall, thin man running away from the scene, jumping over some hedges and some brush into the woods, where he disappears. On the way, he drops a mysterious diary, which Nancy retrieves. The fire department and police arrive, and Nancy goes to her car, and she's about to get in the car and the girls are going to leave when she catches a strange young man, very handsome, who's gotten in the driver's seat of her car and is backing it up out of the way. She's a little bit shocked because she doesn't know who this guy is, why he's in her car, why he's driving it, but he moves it out of the way of fire trucks and things like that, so she decides, okay, well, maybe he was just helping me out. A few moments later, the same gentleman is helping to direct traffic, and he's described as very handsome. I think he's about 19, and he's wearing a fraternity pin. At this point, he introduces himself to Nancy, and it turns out that he will be quite instrumental in many a future Nancy Drew book, and his name is Ned Nickerson. Yes, Ned Nickerson, whom we all know and love, and who becomes Nancy's beau. You can definitely tell even though this is the first book which features Ned Nickerson, who will be a recurring character, how much he cares about Nancy. He's very seriously interested in her, although she's a bit more platonic at this point with him. So I'll just read you a little paragraph from the last page. It won't give much away. So very low spoiler. It really was a gorgeous party, Bess sighed blissfully. Such fun. See, said Ned, I have a notion to start a diary of my own. Why don't you? Nancy asked lightly. She became conscious that Ned's eyes were looking straight at her. I will, if I can fill most of the pages with entries of dates with you. I sense sparks. As well, there is a very kind of strange but interesting subplot involving mail fraud at the local post office. And so I enjoyed this book, even though the actual plot was kind of average, and it does lose a point for some mild ethnic stereotyping of Swedish people. However, and also, it seems like they're constantly teasing Bess, who happens to be a little bit plus-sized, although I suspect that the definition of plus size between 1932 and 1962 meant you didn't have a beehive waist. Probably today that person would be considered very healthy and normal, but in that time it was considered plump, and so they're constantly sort of teasing Bess, and a little of that does go on in this book. But what I did find interesting was that I first read this as a child of probably 7 or 8 years old, and how rather than purely sticking to cozy girls' books and fairy tales, which I love, and you know I love them, here I was reading about inventions and patents for enamel-coated steel processing and mail fraud at the local post office, and absolutely gobbling it up and loving it. And it just goes to show you that if you give a child a good story, even if the story has crime in it, they are capable of handling that and of enjoying it and enjoying the story aspect of it. And it really paved the way for my interest in mysteries for the rest of my life. Mary Stewart, TV shows like the old Perry Mason shows. I mean, I just love all of that. And it seemed like the most natural thing in the world for me to be reading about mail fraud and stolen patents as a 7-year-old. Also, in one part, Nancy goes to a Swedish bakery, and she tells the owner that she fondly remembers that when she was a little girl, he gave her little jam cookies. And I thought that was just absolutely charming, because I also have a memory as a little girl of going to a local bakery in Brighton called Malik's Bakery. And when I was a little girl, the owners used to give me little jam thumbprint cookies and also those black and white cookies. So that really was a very fond memory for me, and very sweet. So, and also the descriptions of Nancy's outfits are absolutely wonderful. On Nancy's first date with Ned, for example, she wears a pale green chiffon dress, a white wrap, and gold evening shoes. I know it's very sort of girly and princess-like, but I eat that stuff up. I just love the descriptions of Nancy's outfits and Bess and George's outfits, and that's part of the charm of this series, you know, because people really don't dress up like that anymore, and in general. And so it's just wonderful to read about. It's a fun book, and I am absolutely looking forward to the next 3 Walter Kerrig mysteries. And once I have read these this spring, I will be back with another episode of Girl Sleuths. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.